And despite the fact that you thought you were never going to run out, you did, right? You were just spending a little bit here, a little bit there, $5 here, $10 there. Next thing you know, you got nothing left. Anybody ever go through that? Give me a yes if you know that feeling. Well, the reason that that happens, in my view, is because what you're doing is you're sort of not conscious of every dollar that goes out the door. Right, you go to the grocery store, you spend $10 here. You go to you stop and buy some candy, or whatever. Then you go, you pay for this and pay for that, and you're just thinking, oh, it's only $10. I have $300 in my wallet. Oh, it's only $20. It's only $5 because you're feeling rich. You're feeling very financially secure at that moment. And then what happens is inevitably, inevitably, you run out of money. And that's because it kind of snuck up on you. It's almost you know what it reminds me of also is it reminds me of that saying where they say watched clocks don't move. Anybody, you know what I'm talking about? Where you're in school and you're going to get out of school at 2, and it's like 1:45, and you're staring at the clock and the clock is not moving at all. I think the reason that the clock doesn't appear to move is because you're very conscious of the clock's movement. You're staring at the clock. Now, if you what now, how do you make the clock move? Well, the way the clock ends up moving is if you get distracted. If you get distracted and you're no longer conscious of the movement of the clock, then you'll look down, do something else, talk to your friends, and then turn around and say, "Oh, wow, it's time to go." Right? But why? Well, why is that? Well, because your consciousness was not connected to the clock anymore, so you weren't able to kind of monitor every movement of the clock. It just sort of all happened very quickly. Or if you are on a long trip and you're looking out the window and you're thinking, you're asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And you're just kind of counting the miles one by one and getting bored. What's the best way to make that trip go by quickly? What makes the trip go by fast? Answer me in the chat. If you want to make the trip go by quickly, what do? You go to sleep. You make yourself unconscious. So what happens? What happens then? Well, you fall asleep. I remember coming back from a trip. My track team in high school, we went to Canada, and I remember how long that trip was. We had to drive from Kentucky to Canada because my track team, I didn't necessarily live in the hood, but we were not rich. But my track team was a hood track team, so we didn't have no money. So we drove like from Kentucky to Canada for a track meet, and and I remember how long that trip was. And I remember noticing that when I went to sleep and became unconscious, the time just flew by. Do you understand? So here, where am I going with this, right? Because every morning this is economic awareness training, financial consciousness training. So the point that I'm making with these three examples is that when you're not aware, when you're not conscious of things slip by, things slide out of your grasp, your money disappears, time flies by. Right. Part of the reason I don't know if you've ever noticed this. Let me tell you something deep that I noticed about life, because I think about these things. Does anybody notice how, like, when you were little, like, there was a big difference between going from, like, I don't know, the third grade to the fifth grade, or turning from like 12 to 13, or every year of high school, you might remember each year being different from the other year. Anybody notice that? But then when you become an adult, it's like 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, and it's like it just clicked by. Time goes by faster, it seems, when you get older. And I was like, why does it seem like it took forever to get from 0 to 18, but it took 2 seconds to go from 20 to 30, and then another 2 seconds to go from 30 to 40. What's going on? My mind is playing tricks on me. Shout out to my good buddy Willie D. I didn't understand that. Well, what I believe is that is that the reason that time seems to go faster when you get older is because you're in a rut. Your life in 2024 is exactly like your life in 2023, which is pretty similar to your life in 2022, which is similar to 2021. So if I was to ask you, tell me the difference between things you were doing in 2018 versus things that you did in 2017, a lot of you probably couldn't tell me. I can't remember the difference between 2016 and 2015. I kind of could, but not really. It's hard. I can't remember. In 2023, I was married to my wife. In 2022, I was married to my wife. We had the kids. We lived in the same house. I did the same work. So I can't distinguish, but I can distinguish between being in the fourth grade and the fifth grade, because that's a big deal. You grew a couple inches, right? And so why does it seem like the time flew by? Well, because you're in a rut, and when you're in a rut, it's like you're programmed in a way that has you operating on a frequency where you're not conscious of time. You're not taking the time to smell the roses. You're not taking the time to be conscious of where you are at that particular moment in time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So consciousness is critical for anybody that wants to understand life, that wants to preserve things. They say that, for example, if you're eating really good food, if you're conscious and you take the time to chew every bite, 50, 60 times, you're going to really enjoy the food a whole lot more than if you just scarf it down. Or as you get older in life, they say when older people get to, their sunset years, they really take the time to celebrate and to connect to every year because they know that the years are thin. They don't want to waste that time anymore. It's not like when they were 30 years old and just kind of not even enjoying anything, just doing the same thing. Get up, go to work, come home, go to bed, get up, go to work, come home, go to bed, get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. So consciousness, in my view, is just critical. It's critical for anybody that really wants to maximize their life or wants to be free, wants to have wealth, or wants to preserve time, or wants to make optimal investments. That's critical, right? So when we do economic awareness training and consciousness training, that's what I want you to kind of understand. So let's spin a little bit and talk about financial consciousness, and I'm going to talk particularly about something that you can invest in if you're interested in taking a look at this. I'm invested in cannabis stocks, and the reason I'm invested in weed is because, as I was explaining to you all how to think like an investor, investors don't look at what's happening now. What investors look at is what they expect to be happening in the future. So, right now, there are some cannabis companies that I bought stock in because I believe that at some point, weed is going to be legalized and they're going to make it okay. It's kind of distressing because, as you know from last night when we were reading Powernomics books or Dr. Claude Anderson's books, you'll know that there's a history of Black people sort of being criminalized for weed, but not being the economic beneficiaries of it, right? So this is kind of a reality that we have to deal with. And so one of the things that if you're interested in this kind of thing, or you are an investor, which I hope everybody is, I do have a list of cannabis stocks that I put together that I can share with you guys. Just get on the text list. I'll text it out to you. Text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. If you text morning to 87948, you'll get invited to our Money in the Morning consciousness training, but you'll also get that list of the cannabis stocks. I've almost put it together. It's almost done. Once it's done, I'll send it out this afternoon. So get on the text list. Text morning to 87948. I'll send it to you. If you don't get it, you can email support@theblackbusinessschool.com and they can make sure you get it. And I think that there's no guarantees with investing, but this is something worth taking a look at because I believe that at some point, if Biden can't finish his term or something like that, and Kamala takes over, then I think that she's going to legalize, or they're going to push for the legalization of weed. Because also remember this, your government's not very financially conscious at all. Most of your politicians do not make beneficial long-term decisions when it comes to our country's economics. Our debt levels are at an all-time high, way too high, an unsustainable level. And they don't care. Well, why don't they care? Well, because they have no reason, they have no incentive to be conscious of how their economic choices are going to impact the future generations. They don't care what happens 30 years down the line. They're only thinking about the next 4 years. And by the way, the number is 87948. Somebody type that in the chat, please. It's 87948. So you can text morning to 87948. So if anybody misses it, you can just look in the chat and it should be in there. All right. So ultimately, when you're talking about so let's speak on the cannabis industry. So last night we did our Powernomics training, which we do every Wednesday night at 8:30. You can join for free. Just text the word greatness to 87948. 87948 is always the number. So it's just a matter of which list you want to be on and what information you want to get from the Black Business School. We have a ton of things for free. And I want to reiterate that our morning economic awareness training is 100% free. And I know a lot of you benefit from that. But we also have things that do have a low fee attached to them so that we can raise money in order to pursue the mission. So if you want to, for example, learn about stock options, our Prime program is extraordinarily good for those of you that want to generate extra income selling stock options, not buying them. Buying is when you're speculating and you're taking all these risks. I sell stock options. That's how I make my money. So I show you exactly what I'm doing with my portfolio. So if you want to take a look at that, go to drboyceprime.com. It's a great program. I know you're going to love it. All right. So So with that said, what I wanted to do today also was answer a few of your questions. If you have some questions and you want, and you're in the Zoom and you put the question in the Q&A section, I'll answer your question. I thought today might be a good Q&A day. My wife and I are about to head out. We're going to California, and we got some stuff to do out there in the next few days. So I will be doing our class from the road. So I'm kind of trying to get packed for that. But anyway, so if you have a question, put your question in the Q&A section. If you want an invitation to the private Zoom and you're not in here, just text the word morning to 87948. Michael, what are your favorite cannabis stocks? I have a few. I'll send you the list later. Just make sure you're on the text list. Text morning to 87948, and I'll send you the whole list later on today. Is there an app that allows cannabis stock trading? Yeah. I mean, any app that trades publicly traded companies, you can buy those stocks on publicly traded apps that trade publicly traded companies. Now, the thing you have to be careful about with buying stock is a lot of people are attracted to these little crappy stocks that cost, 47 cents. And that's not healthy investing, in my opinion, because a lot of these companies are very, very bad. The markets are also very, very bad. So it's like buying a bad product in a bad neighborhood because it's cheap. I remember I went to China in 2006. I taught finance in China back then. And I remember going there and seeing that they had a massive industry of people that were selling like bootleg DVDs, like movies that were still in the theaters, and you could buy them for, a dollar or whatever. And when you play them, they'd never played. They were always the screen was grainy. It was a bunch of crap. Or you could also buy like a Rolex for $5. People will come up to you on the street and offer you something that looks just like a Rolex. If you paid $5 for the Rolex, your watch would last for about a week, and then it would stop working. So generally speaking, that's what I see when I see penny stocks. It's like buying a bad product in a bad neighborhood. So just be really careful about that. I really enjoy teaching finance in China. I learned a lot about culture and economic culture. And if you spend time around Chinese students, you'll notice just instantly why it's so much easier for them to have certain types of economic success, because they're very family oriented, they're very group oriented. They work together. There's no here we have kind of what I call the shiny Negro syndrome, where you have people that want to be shiny and loud and kind of like Diddy. That's one thing about Diddy that kind of always kind of irked me was it's like you wear these big shiny suits and you always want all this attention, and people look up to that. People look up to that. I mean, if you think about Diddy. Sure, the video shows he clearly, did some things he shouldn't have done when it came to his girlfriend, but there were lots of women that wanted to be Diddy's girlfriend. And I was always the guy who said, why would you want to be in a relationship with a guy who is an egomaniac who might beat you up? I don't understand that. But then if you look at culture, you understand why. It's because the egomaniac who might beat you up, who makes 10,000 songs about how he can't stand women, right? Because that's where hip hop took a left turn, where it literally got to the point where there was a massive disrespect for women. For some reason, these guys were appealing and attractive to a lot of women. There were a lot of women that said, "Oh, I like that guy. I want to be like him, or I want to be with him." And the men would say, "I want to be like him." And I would say, "Why would you want to be like a man who's a drug addict, who beats women, who does horribly irresponsible things with his life?" That doesn't make sense to me. And what it is, though, but here's the thing. This is where economic awareness does matter. It's because of money. It's money. If white folks that run industries like hip hop, well, if they put money in the pocket of the most degenerate, screwed up human being on the planet, there'll be millions of people who will want to be like that person, who will want to be around that person, who will say that person is a black leader, that person is my hero. Because if you remember, Diddy was a black leader. Diddy was a guy that was, he did the whole vote or die campaign. He was friends with Barack Obama and all these politicians. And so ultimately, and I'm not really here to tell you if he's bad or good. I think you can still make your decision on your own. But I think that you have to be really careful about how money can blind you and make you think that something is what it is not. It can make you think a bad man is a good man. It can make you think, a terrible woman is a good woman. So just keep that in mind. All right. So if you have a question, put it in the Q&A section. If you put it in the chat, I probably won't see it. I'm staring right at the Q&A section. So I see Calvin says, what are the essential infrastructure components needed to build up the continent of Africa? There's a lot. There's a lot. There's so much there. First of all, you have to have good government, good governance. You have all these leaders that are pretty much puppets of European countries and stuff like that. So and also European corporations. So they don't even do what's right on behalf of the people. If you go to Nigeria, for example, Nigeria has more oil than any country on the planet, damn near, and they've got an insane amount of poverty. You should never have that much. They should be like the Arabs, you know. They should be like the people in Abu Dhabi and Kuwait, you know, just driving around in expensive cars or whatever. Everybody should be living good, and Nigeria has the wealth to do that. But unfortunately, so much of the wealth gets extracted, and the government officials don't have an incentive to spread that wealth, that you end up having this massive poverty class. And I think that that's unfortunate. So you're going to have better government, you know, some freedom, liberation. You really have to break away from colonialism. Also, you know, there are some advantages that Africa has that are tremendous, that are going to lead to a massive economic boom in the next century. Africa has a lot of young people. Human beings are a resource. Human beings are capital. We're trained to believe that babies and having kids and stuff is like a waste of time, and that it's something that just costs money, and it's just a big expense that doesn't give you any benefit. But that's not true. People matter. People are valuable. Having people in your life is that's a form of wealth. You know, did you know that you could back in slavery, you could actually tell the bank that you had 20 or 30 slaves, and they would loan you money because they would say, "Wow, you're a wealthy man. You have lots of collateral." When you have 10 or 12 kids, farmers used to have 10 or 12 kids, not because they just enjoyed sex and they enjoyed kids. They would have a lot of kids because they had more labor on the farm. That was a form of wealth. So what's happened what's been interesting is, in our so-called modern society, we've decided that children are not the children are just this wasteful luxury item that most of us can't afford to create and produce. So what's happened is that in European countries and in Japan, the fertility rates have gone extremely low. Even China, that used to pump out too many babies, they had a one child policy. Well, people adjusted to that. People got used to only having one child. And now they're asking people to have kids. They're paying people to have children in China because people were like, okay, I'm not going to have any kids. And so Africa, I don't think Africa ever got the memo. I kind of feel like, because we're just smarter in so many areas, naturally smart, Africa never got that memo. So Africa has a lot of young people, and that's going to be a massive resource. That's a multi-trillion-dollar resource for the future. And in European countries and Asian countries and stuff like that are allowing for lots of immigration because their own population can't sustain them. So Africa has a lot going for it, besides it being the richest continent on the planet. I think Africa is going to be fine. It just may take 50 to 100 years to get there. Let's see. Rhonda, I hear AI will need energy to run it. What energy stocks do you like? One that comes to mind was URA uranium, uranium ETF. I have a list of energy stocks that I sent out to you guys. Text the word stock to 87948 if you'd like to see it. And that I'm trying to think here. I sent this out maybe about, I don't know, I want to say a month or two ago. So yeah, if you text stock to 87948, it won't come to you right away, but there'll be a few different things that'll come to you if you're interested in stocks and stuff like that. Is there a code for the Hotel Convention Center? I don't think that there's a code. I think you can just tell them that you're coming to the All Black National Convention. The All Black National Convention is October 25th through the 27th. It's going to be in Lombard, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. And it's going to be at the Westin Lombard, and we got them to drop the room prices to about 150, and it's a very nice, comfortable, luxurious experience, and you're going to really like it. So feel free to join us. If you want to learn about the convention, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. The convention is amazing. There's so many smart people, attorneys and therapists and PhDs and you know, and mothers and fathers and just people that are doing excellent things. We don't look for celebrities. We don't care if you're a celebrity. We don't care if you are a famous rapper or whatever. Like, that doesn't mean you know anything. That just means a white person put you on TV. That does not make you significant or beneficial to the Black community, in my opinion. What we look for are people that are working on behalf of the community to do things that are going to actually make a tangible difference in the lives of our people, things that they can share, skills that they have. So, for example, one person that spoke there last year was Dr. Mary Stoddard. Dr. Stoddard grew up as a sharecropper in the South, and she had 17 siblings, and all 17 of her siblings graduated from college because they had a plan. They didn't sit around waiting for white folks. They didn't sit around waiting for affirmative action. Their plan was the first one that gets into college is going to help the second one. The second one's going to help the third one. The third one's going to help the fourth one. And using that plan, being conscious, they were able to get all 17 of their kids through college. And then when Mary got married, she married Dr. Marcus Stoddard, who's a black surgeon at the University of Louisville. Everybody should know about people like this, instead of us, just honoring the Diddies of the world. Like, we should be looking at the doctors and lawyers and brilliant people in our community. We got so many smart people. And so she married Dr. Marcus Stoddard. Mary got a PhD and a law degree, and all 5 of their kids became PhDs or MDs. Every single one of those black children, all 5 of those kids became PhDs or MDs, and their mother was a freaking sharecropper. Their mother started poorer than anybody in this room. It's hard to be poorer than a sharecropper in Mississippi. And yet all 5 of those kids are doctors right now. So stop telling me that it's impossible for you to be successful. Stop telling me that black people can't succeed, or that the white man's stopping us from this and we can't do that. That's crap. That's stupid. I hate that. It drives me crazy. You got to focus, man. You got to focus and stop listening to the wrong people. Stop taking advice from people that should not be giving you advice. And that goes for your relationships. That goes for your wealth. Do you know how many unqualified financial instructors there are on the internet? They took a 2-week class and they're telling you all about wealth. And I'm sitting there thinking, I went to school for a decade for this, like this, more than a decade. And then I practiced for 20 years. And I'm looking at some 25-year-old who's like, oh yeah, I took a class on stocks. I can tell you all about the stock market. Well, he's going to tell you how to go gamble your money away. That's what he's going to do. So again, whatever. I'm not here to judge it one way or the other, but what'll happen is people will say, well, he's more relatable because, he be talking hood and stuff. He be talking like, what's up, man? You got to do good. You got to do it. And I'm like, that's okay. There's nothing. I have nothing against that. I'm not looking down on that at all. But don't look down on me because I encourage us to be a little bit sharper and smarter. Don't look down on me because I want something different. I don't want to have hood problems for the rest of my life. I was born in the projects. I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to eat a bologna sandwich with no bologna. I know all that stuff, but I don't want to live like that forever. I don't celebrate it. So I really just kind of think that low self-esteem kind of affects us in so many ways, where we just don't believe we deserve certain opportunities and certain privileges in this society. I don't think we believe we're capable of certain things either. So like when I look at Dr. Mary Stoddard, who lives in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from, I'm just like, okay, hard work, just basic, simple values. You work hard, you learn, you pick up your damn book, put down the blunt and pick up a book, don't go to the next, don't run to the club buying bottles of whatever. Like go study something instead of falling into this party culture, right? I remember being so frustrated when I would watch. And this is when I was like 30 years old, and I would look at the way people really looked up to the rappers, and you see Diddy, they're always holding a bottle. And when I see that, I'm like, do they know what what damage liquor and drugs have done to black people? Do they know how much pain, how much devastation, and how many black families have been destroyed by drugs and alcohol? Like, why are we celebrating the things that destroy us? That does not make any sense. And so really, what you kind of have is you have kind of this battle between maybe you could say emotion over logic, or habits over choices. We have habits and we have emotional connection to these habits because our consciousness gets pushed down to record lows. So we have this emotional connection to habits that we know are not beneficial. But what happens is the reaction is that we get angry when there are people who try to snap us out of it. We get mad. It's like when you're sleeping and you're comfortable. Like my wife tried to wake me up yesterday to go to the gym, and it was 5 a.m. I was sleepy as hell. I was knocked out. And I woke up and she was gone. I said, "Why'd you leave me?" She said, "Because I tried to wake you up twice and you started growling. You were like, get her, let me sleep. Let me sleep." I said, I did that. She said, "Yeah. You were kind of like irritated, like you rolled over and went back to sleep." So sometimes when you try to wake somebody up, and tell me if you got relatives like this. Let me know. Let's talk about your crazy cousins. A lot of y'all got relatives where you try to wake them up and they don't want to be woke. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to process things. They just want to keep doing things the same way because we got this nice, comfortable wheelchair waiting for us when your disabled black ass shows up, like I can't do nothing. I'm just a nigger. I can't learn. I can't be learning. They be learning me how to read, and I can't do nothing for myself. I don't know how to save no money. I can't do the stock market. That's for white folks. That's for rich folks. I can't do it. They say, oh well, come on, sit in this wheelchair. And Uncle Joe's gonna take care of you. And we get you poor baby. You are so black. You are so black. And being black is such a disability. Oh my goodness, you poor thing. Yeah, and I was trying really hard. I picked up the book, but then I saw the book next to the Cavassier, and I had to drink the Ciroc with the Cavassier because Diddy told me to do it. And but that's what that's what I see. I see this love affair that sometimes we gain with just extreme dysfunction. I just it's crazy. It's kind of a weird experience because I remember when I would look at R. Kelly back in 2002, when he had the 15-year-old girlfriend Aaliyah, and again, I have a little bit of a personal connection with this. I've talked to Dame Dash extensively, and he would talk about Ali when he and I would go see him in California, and he would talk about Ali and how sad he was when he would think about Ali. I remember one day Dame told me, he said, yeah, yesterday, man, I was able to finally watch the documentary about Aaliyah. He said, because for 20 years I couldn't watch anything with her in it because it affected him so much. He dated her, he was engaged to her. So anyway, when I remember with R. Kelly when he was dating the 15-year-old girl, I was like, why do y'all love this guy who dates a 15-year-old girl? I don't understand that. You know that's kind of like a child. That's pretty much a child molest. Like that's not normal. And you just look past that because he sings really well. And I didn't understand that. And so later on, 15 years later, the world is in the uproar over, whatever he was doing. And I'm like, yeah, I was my uproar ended in 2003 when I realized that y'all don't give a damn. So I kind of feel like you got to just address the culture, and all of us have unhealthy habits. A lot of us have just this deep 400 years of slave training that we've all gotten that keeps us from doing the things that we know we need to do. And unfortunately, discipline is hard. It's much harder to be disciplined than it is to be a victim. If you choose to be a victim and you choose to just do whatever's easy, whatever's comfortable, whatever's fun, then you're not going to succeed, and the world will always forgive you because you're black. They're going to say, well, you're black, you're not supposed to succeed. And I don't believe that. I believe that being black means you're supposed to be great. I think that being black means you're supposed to have excellence in your DNA. I think I look at my blackness as a superpower. I look at who I am as an opportunity to be a better man than I was yesterday. And I don't know why that becomes such a controversial issue. Maybe it's the way I share it. Maybe I express it in a way that's offensive to some people. But I'll be honest with you, I get very frustrated by that because I don't think it's right. I think we deserve better than that. So anyway, let me jump back in and answer more of your questions. I apologize for going on my little rant. Okay, so Terrell says, what are your thoughts on Nvidia stock split? Is Nvidia splitting their stock? I didn't hear about that. I know Nvidia had their earnings announcement and they did really well, but I didn't hear that they were splitting their stock. So if they are splitting this, and it would make sense, it's over $1,000. I think Nvidia hit their earnings numbers again. There was a lot of debate over whether or not Nvidia could do it again because Nvidia has done so well. But it wouldn't surprise me if they 10-1. Is that what it is, El Haj? Thank you for telling me. I did not know that. And I bet you the stock is doing really well today. That's really good. I own Nvidia, so let me see how much money we all made today from our Nvidia stock. Let me see here, Nvidia. Yeah, look at that. It went up 9.7%. What's crazy about Nvidia is that their market cap is $2.6 trillion, right? So when they go up by 10%, that's $250 billion increase in market value. So that's just an unbelievably insane number. And to think that this company was created by Jensen Huang 35 years ago, and he's kind of the one guy behind NVIDIA. I think that's pretty awesome, pretty amazing. All right, so let's see here. With a capital base of 50K, what annual ROI can I expect from selling stock options if I'm selling calls on a weekly basis? Okay, great question, Christian. Well, let me just say this. Like, let's say you just did one stock, and you were selling call options, and let's say you used some leverage and you bought, like, I don't know, let's say you had 400 shares of Coinbase or something. Well, with 400 shares of Coinbase, if I sold my calls right now, I could make about approximately, with a reasonable strike price, I could make about $2,400 a week. So you could probably, it wouldn't be inconceivable to be able to make $7,000 a month in income, which $7,000 a month times 12 is what's that? $84,000 a year. So if a person is able to raise enough money to just buy a decent amount of stock, they can actually make quite a bit of money selling options. So if you'd like to learn more and see what we do and look at my portfolio and how I make my money, just go to drboyceprime.com. The Prime program is good. I think you're going to like it. So, and if you want to do a one-on-one or something like that, and you want me to help you set it all up, literally I can take you step by step through it. It's not investing advice. It's just me telling you what I'm doing and also me telling you what I would do, but it's not me telling you what to do. But if you'd like to do a one-on-one or well, one-on-ones, I don't have a lot of one-on-one space, but we can do group sessions. I did one yesterday. Just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and talk you through it. Let's see here. Okay, I'm looking at the Q&A section. Antonio Fuller says, I'm looking for a cannabis ETF. Is that on the list too? Yep, absolutely. So text the word morning to 87948. I will send you the list of cannabis stocks this afternoon. Let's see. Ricky says, Dr. Boyce, how me and my pops are ready. He has a capital base and really wants to get going. What is step one? We can start today. Log in at drboyceprime.com. We have a Prime 101 section. So if you go through Prime 101, go through those materials, that'll get you started. You can make money tomorrow. If you have a capital base, you can make money tomorrow. It's not hard to do. So yeah. Let's see. Tana, what does a person do if they have no one to leave their assets to? You've always got somebody to leave your assets to. It may not be a relative, but there's always something or someone. It depends on who you are, what kind of person you are. Like if I meet a young kid that I really, like and really think is doing good things with their life and could use a little boost, I have no problem helping them out. Like, I'd have no problem leaving them, some money because I have one daughter and one biological child, and I have several kids that I kind of scooped up along the way. And and I don't know. Like I think it's a matter of what you tether yourself to emotionally. I don't think you have to be biologically related to someone for them to matter to you. I do believe that. Let's see here. There are scholarships are always an answer. That's a good answer, Anita. I I would say with scholarships, the hard part with scholarships is that college costs so much. Universities are significantly overcharging people. And so if you save up, say, $100,000 and put it into a scholarship, that might get a kid through school for 2 years or something. And I don't know if that's worth it. I don't really know if $100,000 is worth the cost of half a bachelor's degree. I just don't, you know. Because what does a bachelor's degree do? A bachelor's degree gives you a piece of paper that gives you a ticket into an economic system where you can then have the right to work. It's your working papers. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to college. I'm just saying, though, going back to earlier when somebody asked me, what could I do with $50,000? Just with stock options alone, I would, if I had a choice, if I'm 20 years old and I have a choice between using $100,000 and giving it to a university for half a bachelor's degree, or taking that 100,000 and using that as my first capital base to sell stock options where I never have to work again for the rest of my life as long as I manage my money. Oh, you know which choice I'm taking. I can get education. I can go online and learn stuff. I can, I can go. There's so much stuff out here. Like I don't even think. I think that college is necessary if you want to be like a dentist or a social worker or a licensed professional, a medical doctor or an attorney, things like that. I don't think it's necessary if you want to learn. I'm not saying that college is bad. I think college is a great experience. I love being on college campuses. I do. I loved when I was teaching on campuses. I'm trying to think which one was I can't even name which one was my favorite. The prettiest campus I was ever on that I taught on was Indiana University. I enjoyed my time at Ohio State. Syracuse was okay. At Syracuse, I made the most money. I was making six figures when I was teaching at Syracuse. Ohio State was cool because they have a good football team. I live right next to the football stadium, but I never went to any games because I'd rather watch it on TV. Um, I don't know, but I just like them all. I like them all. I think, and I remember going to USC. That's like a beautiful campus. Like campuses are nice. It's a nice environment, but it's very expensive. And when I was reading about how 60% of all Black wealth goes towards servicing student loan debt, I said, whoa, what the hell? So these universities, they own black wealth. Like the same way that when they build like a hip hop museum and they go and they buy all the artifacts from black people. So then for some reason, all this stuff that should belong to black people is suddenly in a big white museum. Like, and they've been doing this for hundreds of years. They would go grab stuff from Africa and then put it be like in the Museum of England. Well, the same thing is true with your money, with your wealth. Like they're literally sitting on this empire built off of our wealth, and I don't like that. I don't. So anyway, let me keep going. Tana says, "What does a person do if they have to?" Oh, you already asked that. I'm sorry. If you only have $10,000 to invest, what will be the quickest return for a senior? Well, I wouldn't look for quick money. Quick money is not always the best money, and I think the question becomes, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to have capital gains, or are you trying to have income? If you're trying to have income, there are dividend stocks. Again, if you text the word stock to 87948, I have a list of dividend paying stocks. I call them dividend monsters just because I was having fun with it. And so you can take a look at that. There's also stock options. You can sell stock options, things like that to generate a little extra income. But if you want growth, you'd have to invest in a different way. So it would kind of depend on what you're trying to do. I think if you're a beginning investor, the best way to get started is things like mutual funds because it makes it simple and easy. A 4-year-old monkey could do it, literally, so there's no reason to be afraid of investing in mutual funds. So if you're not sure, you can go to b1investing.com, be the number one investing.com, and just take a look. And there's something there that can get you started. Let's see here. Travis, what's it like to be free and living your purpose? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's there's a difference between getting up and going to work because you want to versus working because you have to. And I find that doing work that you really want to do that matters to you, it's really good for your mental health. I think when you're doing stuff that doesn't mean anything to you other than a paycheck, and or if you don't like the people you work with, it can make you really depressed. And I think that's why depression and anxiety is so high in the Black community. And I think that if you're a parent and you don't want your children to have anxiety and depression, then you build them some wealth so they can actually have freedom. That's what when our youngest asked me what I think she should do when she grows up, I said, I want you to be happy. Like, that's it. I don't care if I'm not going to define you by what profession you are. That's a silly European concept anyway. Not even European. Even Europeans don't do that. It's Americans, Americans, because we're obsessed with our work. Um, I just want you to be happy. And so we talked about the inalienable rights. I said, have you heard of the inalienable rights? And she said, no. I said, that's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I said, well, we know what it means to have life. What is liberty? Liberty is freedom. And the pursuit of happiness, what does that mean? I said, that means that you have the ability to pursue happiness. It doesn't mean that you're going to just naturally be happy. You have to pursue it. But to pursue happiness, you have to be conscious enough to first even know what happiness is, where happiness is located. A lot of people don't even know that. A lot of people don't even know what makes them happy. They think, oh, I'll be happy if I make money, or I'll be happy if I get girls. I'll be happy if I get this job, right? They haven't even done the internal work spiritually to even know what makes them happy, what makes you tick. And so once you figure out what makes you happy, and you figure out where the location of that thing is or whatever, what you need to do to get there, then you then have a position where you're going to go pursue happiness, right? And I said, so freedom, liberty is critical for the pursuit of happiness. Because if I know that happiness is over there, but I have to stay over here, then I can never really truly be happy because I can't pursue it. I can't go pursue it. I said, most people in this world, this is what I told her. I said, a lot of people can't pursue happiness because they got to go to work that day. Happiness for you might be sleeping in. Happiness might be spending the time on the phone with your mother before she passes. Happiness might mean taking a trip to Canada or something. And a lot of people can't pursue happiness because they don't have financial freedom. So I said, here's what I want to do for you. And I know you're not going to disagree with me. If I tell you to be a dentist or an engineer, then we might have a disagreement about that or a debate about it or an argument. I'm not going to do that to you. So I said, here's what I want. I want you to be happy. And I know you're not going to disagree with me because everybody wants to be happy. And I said also, because I'm a financial expert, I'm going to position you where you have the knowledge and also some assets where you can get rid of your financial constraints that will then allow you to rise spiritually to the point where you can go pursue happiness. Right. So how you pursue it, what you pursue is going to be up to you. But I want to remove that constraint because most people can't pursue happiness because there's a financial limitation to it. And this is why, in my view, why wealth building is important. This is why investing is important. This is why financial literacy is important. This is why economic consciousness is important. It's very, very hard to pursue happiness when you're a slave. And capitalism is designed to create slaves. That's what it does. But they don't force you to be a slave. They trick you into becoming a slave. They manipulate you into slavery. That's what they do. There's a meme I saw where they had a guy sitting at a desk with a chain around his neck, and he was chained to his desk, and they said slavery, it's better when you don't tell them. Even you give them the illusion of freedom, but you really aren't giving them freedom. You're minimizing the options, because remember, this is a consciousness thing, right? So even if you think about politics, give me a yes or no. Yes or no. Do you feel that a two-party system gives you freedom in terms of choice? Do you really feel free in a two-party political system? Yes or no? Do you feel like you're getting a chance to pick the best person for the job, and you've got, these liberties that they promise you? No, none of us feels free in that system. No intelligent person feels free in a two-party system, Democrat or Republican. So by sort of elevating their consciousness to a certain point, what they're basically doing is they're saying, okay, um, our goal is to get you to play the game, but we're going to design the game. So by designing the game in a certain way and only giving you certain choices, I can give you the illusion of freedom without actually giving you freedom. And I think capitalism on an aggregate level does the exact same thing. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have to work here. You can quit your job at any time. But what am I going to do if I'm buried under student loan debt, got to pay rent, got to go pay for this car note, like, and I have no assets? Well, I have to come to work. I have no choice. So really, to understand the game, I personally think the best way to deal with a game, it's like dealing with a traffic jam, right? Like you ever like are on the highway, right? And the frustration. Imagine the frustration of being stuck in a traffic jam where there's bumper to bumper, cars aren't moving. You're sitting there, you're pissed off because you're just stuck in this stuff, cars for miles. You can't go back or can't go forward, can't go left, can't go right. You're just sitting there. Well, the best way to be able to deal with the traffic jam is if you have a GPS that tells you the traffic jam is coming, right? So you're driving and you look down the road and you look at your GPS and you see red on the GPS and it tells you that the traffic jam is coming. Well, what do you do? What do you do if you know the traffic is coming 3 miles down the road and you got two exits? What do you do? You get the hell off the freeway, right? You get off the free. You say, I'm not navigating this stuff. I'm not. What I'm saying. So why are you able to do that? Well, you have to have a certain level of consciousness to do that. A conscious person is looking at the GPS. They're processing information. They're looking around. They're trying to see what's going on, so they can be aware of what's happening before it actually happens. So getting off the freeway is a preventative measure to make sure that you don't have to get in a situation where you're stuck and you have a limited number of choices. So I kind of see life as the same way. So your kid's going down the highway of life. Your child is 4 years old. Your grandkid is 7 or whatever. You see the traffic jam that's coming. You see the slavery down the road. You got the GPS on life. You got to understand. See, some of y'all are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. So you've got all this wisdom. That's wealth, by the way. You got all this wisdom because you know the GPS. You know white folks ain't never going to stop being white. America ain't never going to stop being capitalist. Democrats ain't never going to stop being Democrats. Republicans are going to be Republicans, and the world is going to be what it is. So you see your child driving down this road, and you've got a level of consciousness that they don't have. You're in a helicopter, and you see the traffic jam that's coming. You see the slavery coming. So what do? Well, you got to communicate, and you got to tell the child, like, look, get off the road. Get off the road. And then you give them the map. You say, here's how you get off the road. Right, there's an exit 1 mile ahead of you. You get off here and you go left, and then you go around all this stuff. So to me, that's what I see when I see us preparing the next generation for the economic traffic jams and the slavery that is in store for them. We know what's in store for them. The student loans are going to be even worse than they are right now. The cost of real estate and all that's going to be higher than it is right now. The automobiles, rent, all that's going to be expensive. Also, America is going to be racist, and it's going to be a tough place to live. So why not go ahead and use your GPS and prepare them in advance? Get them off the freeway. Help them take a better route. Help them take the route that you wish you had taken when you were 22 years old. And if you do that, what happens is that you find that there are all these roads that are never traveled because everybody feels like they got to stay on the damn highway. And I'm just a guy who says I think it's okay to challenge yourself and challenge those around you to just get out of the rat race. You walk away from that nonsense. You don't have to be in that stuff. That system, that oppressive system that we're always fighting against. And this is one thing I would challenge people on because I have a lot of friends that are very radical and they're fighting the system constantly. They're constantly fighting the system. And I'm the guy who says I'm not going to fight the system because I'm just not going to be in the system. Because my consciousness tells me that I don't even have to be here. Like why am I trying to win a game that's rigged for me to lose? I'm not playing your game. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. And then but you think about this. Think about how many of our folks, right? We get in corporate America and we're like, we're mad because they need to hire more black people and you need to give me my opportunities. And that's very frustrating. It's very stressful. And I think that sometimes what happens is that the brainwashing, the manipulation of our consciousness at an early age makes us believe that this is the only choice that we have, that you have to be here, you have to do this fight, and you really don't. It's almost like being in a really bad relationship where the person is being unreasonable and rude and mean and terrible and abusive. And then one day, if you're smart, you become conscious and you say, wait, I don't have to be here with you. I don't have to have these arguments with you. I could date this lady over here, or I could go be with somebody else. There's other fish in the sea besides you. And what is that? That's when you have that awakening where you wake up one day and say, I don't actually have to even be in this hell of a relationship. I can be somewhere else. That to me is a consciousness. You've gone to another dimension because now instead of seeing your life as sort of you being inside this little bubble with another person, you're actually realizing you have options and you're seeing the world from a higher plane. You've gone to the third dimension, and now you see your boyfriend or girlfriend or your wife or whatever. But then you see all the other people that could have been your girlfriend or could all these other people that could have been your husband. You understand, right? So consciousness is the answer to a lot of dilemmas, in my opinion. I think consciousness, which really comes down to awareness or sight, the more you see, the more you can be. And if you can't see it, you'll never be it. And so I believe that there's a deliberate manipulation of our consciousness level in this society to limit and minimize what you're able to see. It starts with education. It starts with the fact that they send millions of kids to the public school system and don't teach them nothing that's ever going to liberate them. John D. Rockefeller actually said that he said, we do not want to develop an education system that creates millions of people who are free thinkers. We need people that are going to be limited in their thinking so that all they know is getting up and going to work every day. That is a deliberate manipulation of their consciousness. That's what it is. Okay, a few more questions. Let me answer a few more questions. And by the way, make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948 if you want to get an invitation to our financial consciousness training. Also, if you want to check out the All Black National Convention, you just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. I hope you all will come out there. I hope that I get a chance to hug you and see you in person and shake your hand. And I certainly appreciate all of you sitting with me as we get up every morning at 10 a.m. and I get to act like a weirdo. I love this. This is a lot of fun for me. And by the way, I want to also apologize in advance if I say something that offends you or challenges you in a way that makes you uncomfortable or something like that. I hope that you'll just receive that as just a perspective that you can consider. And at the very least, I can also make it clear that I don't know everything. I'm still figuring it out too. So maybe there's some things I still need to learn, and in fact, I know that there are. So I just want to kind of lay that out because sometimes I know when I speak in a raw form, it can hit people a little bit tough. So let's not be scared of each other. Let's just keep talking. All right. So a few more questions. Let's see. Marquetta says, "Good morning, Dr. Watkins. I'm in my mid-30s, new to investing, received a $10,000 check. I want to invest. Where do I start?" Go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. There's a $5 a day plan that can get you started there. It depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to make more money or make more income, then maybe you could, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you could look into some small investment in some sort of a business venture, but be very careful about using all your money in one place. I think if your goal is to just be a long-term investor, mutual funds are a great way to get started with that without having to stock pick. Let's see here. What do you think about buy alert? Is that a stock? I don't have that stock in front of me, Janice, so I can't speak on that. But we do portfolio power play on Tuesdays, and that's when I dig into and look research a bunch of stocks. But today we'll talk about some other stuff. But at some point we can do this. So portfolio power plays on Tuesdays at noon, so you can join us there. All right, so let's see here. What Africa stocks do you invest in? Actually, if you text the word stock, Terrell, I sent out a list of Africa stocks to everyone on that list. So just text the word stock to 87948, and you will get a list of Africa stocks. So if you get on different lists, just be prepared. Like you're going to get a lot of stuff from us, and I hope that you like it. And if you don't want the stuff that we send to you, if you click on it on the link and look at it, then you'll stay on the list. But if you go too long without looking at anything, then eventually we stop messaging because we don't want to bother you. So, but if you can't get enough and you want us to help you, then we got plenty of stuff for you. Let's see here. Lewis says, I have 20,000 on hand. Okay. Okay, so I think Lewis, I think we answered that question. Mutual funds. I'm a big fan of mutual funds. Now, if you want to generate income, I think 20,000 is a great place to get started with stock options. So feel free to go to drboyceprime.com, or you can also text the word money to 87948. If you text money to 87948, that's why I introduce you to selling stock options for money. That's what. So if you want to get introduced to that, just text the word money to 87948, and you'll get a link right away in your text, and you can watch that short video. And I think I know you're going to be impressed. I've done that presentation for probably about 50,000 people, and most people are wowed by it. To the point where they don't even believe it's possible at first, and then I just show them, because it is. All right, so let's see, Gordon. I started investing in cannabis stocks a couple of years ago, but I didn't have much money. I've been holding, but they've been really beaten down. Yeah, I kind of think I think that's I'm more of a long-term holder of these stocks, so I get it. They are a little bit frustrating. Let's see. I'm looking to get into wholesaling real estate so that I can have cash to fund my trading account. Any tips for me? Yeah, I would learn from people that know how to wholesale real estate. I don't get them to mention it much, but actually, we do have something called Dr. Boyce Real Estate, where there's a ton of content on real estate, from wholesaling to buying hotels to multifamily to all kinds of stuff that you want to do. So if you go to drboycerealestate.com, the first 30 days are 100% free. And we have real estate experts like Chalet Camilo and some others that have come through and helped us sort of develop real estate curricula in the Black Business School. So, and we did a really big conference on real estate wholesaling maybe about a year or two ago. And I think you get access to that. If you go to drboycerealestate.com, you get access. And if you don't see instant access or you can't find it, just email our support team, support@theblackbusinessschool.com, and they can get you access to whatever you need. We have a lot of good real estate material. And also we have real estate for children. That's at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. Or if you go to b1millionaires.com, you can start your child on that journey. That's be the number one millionaires.com. Let's see, Lydia, should I purchase a property from my mother, inherit it, and paid for it to try to generate passive income from my current residence? Okay, so you want to buy a property from your mother, okay, that's paid for, and generate passive income from my current residence. Okay. Um, I can't tell you if you should purchase a property from your mother just because I don't know the details. I think that talking to a tax expert might be important just to make sure you understand the tax implications of the transaction. Um, I don't think real estate's the best way to make income, to be honest with you. I just don't. I used to think that, but me and my wife are selling our real estate, not all of it, but some of it. And because we don't want to, I don't like all the paperwork and the bureaucracy and dealing with the tenants and all that. It's just not, I mean, but investing is something you should do based on your preference. You should do it based on what you're comfortable with and what you enjoy. I don't enjoy real estate that much. I mean, I know a lot about it, and I worked with a lot of experts, and I believe in owning some piece of it for diversification's sake. But you can get that diversification through a real estate investment trust. You don't actually have to buy physical property, and so there's a big real estate boom in the Black community in terms of a lot of interest in real estate. And I do think real estate is important. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that if it's not for you, then you don't have to make it for you. You can find other ways to generate income passively. I generate thousands of dollars a week in income from selling my stock options, and I don't have to talk to a single person. I don't have to fill out any paperwork. I don't have to collect money from a tenant. None of that stuff. I could just literally, if I owned 1,000 shares of Coinbase, you can literally pull in thousands of dollars a week in income just by selling those options, and it's very easy to do. All right, so let me see here. Lydia, okay. Oh, you are asking. Okay, it's on the high end of my budget, and the interest rate is 15 to 20 minimum from the current location. I would be really careful about anything that stretches your budget. Especially if you also another thing about real estate is that if you're not experienced in it and you dive into it like that with a big deal, some big contract or something, it can be disastrous. Real estate's not very liquid, meaning that you can't sell it quickly. That's another reason why I like the stock options move, is because stock options are very liquid. I could go in right now and I could literally open my phone up right now and pull $100,000 out and have that money in my bank account this afternoon, right? I can't do that with real estate. You understand? So, I would encourage you to just be very thoughtful about little things like that. Like, so for example, a lot of people like to invest in all these startup companies. Somebody creates a startup and they want to put their money in, and they don't think about, they're not always conscious of, like, well, how long is it really going to take you to get your money out? And is it possible for you to even get your money out? There are some investments you can make where you can't get your money out, until they have an exit. Well, what's the exit look like? Was it when the company gets sold, when they go public? Like what? I have an investment in a company called TribeVest that I made 5 years ago. I invested $75,000 in this company. 5 years later, my 75,000 I hear is worth $250,000. Hooray! Right. Ooh, tripled your money. Good job. I can't get that money. I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get that money. Right. And that's one of the good ones. That's one of the successes. I didn't talk about, investments I made in other places that didn't pan out to anything. I put some money in the Tulsa real estate fund, and y'all know how that ended. I was disappointed with that. There's other businesses I've invested in the black community too, that where it wasn't that they had a bad idea. It was that there was no clear plan on exactly how you were going to actually have a cash return on the investment that you made. And so I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying just think about it carefully and make sure that you understand what you're in for. Because a lot of times we don't know that, and then bad things could occur. All right, so let's see. Dwayne, what are your thoughts about China's development in Africa, good or bad? I kind of feel like it's bad overall because I want Africans to have independence, but it's better than the United States because the Chinese are just better business partners than the US, but they too have their own type of economic pimping, so to speak. They're very, very picky and restrictive about sharing technology and teaching Africans how to manage infrastructure on their own. So they'll come there and they'll build a railway for your country that's amazing and beautiful and high tech, but they won't teach you what they're doing, and they will import their own engineers and whatever and workers to work on the railway. They're not going to hire the local people. And then on top of that, when it comes to the maintenance of that railway, they're going to do the maintenance themselves. And then on top of that, they might make some pretty egregious demands, like, we want a 99-year lease on all the land, between here and, Kinshasa or something, right? So like in Jamaica, there was this really beautiful highway that they had in Jamaica. My wife and I was there, and we drove up from Kingston up to the north. I can't remember the beaches and stuff. And so, because the kids were up at the resort, and we had to drive down to Kingston a few times because my wife was doing presentations in Kingston. And this highway was so much better than the original road. The original road was like windy 3 hour drive. It was terrible. The highway was a nice, smooth, comfortable 90-minute ride, right? But here's the problem. The toll on the highway was outrageously expensive. I want to say it was like $25 each way to ride on this highway. Most people in Jamaica cannot afford to drive on this highway. The Chinese have built this thing. Number two, the Chinese, from what I understand, they required like a 99-year lease on all the land, you know, that the highway covered. So a lot of local people were very unhappy with the deal that was made. So there was this nice, comfortable highway, but there wasn't anybody on it because nobody could use it in Jamaica. So that's kind of the trade-off, and that's the part that's sketchy, and I don't know how that's going to play out. Let's see. So it's a new type of colonialism without guns, really. Justin, can you tell me books to read and how to set up a trust fund for my sons? Let's see. Well, I think that I don't have any books in mind as far as trust funds. I think that research, just online research can be beneficial. I think talking to a trust expert can be helpful too. You sit down with a trust attorney, they can answer all your questions and help you set it up. I think that might be a little bit better than, but there are plenty of books on trust. If you go to Amazon, just search for trust, you'll find a lot of books that'll come up. Let's see, Dr. Boyce media rumor, banks close and to take money out. Is it true? No, I don't think it's true. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I haven't seen any evidence of that. I mean, banks are in a little bit of danger because of the commercial real estate market, mostly regional banks, but they have safeguards that have historically always protected the banks from, any of these terrible collapses. So I wouldn't buy into that stuff. Let's see, Marcia, do you think the USA is in danger of being a dictatorship? I don't think so. What would that mean for the black community? The only time I see the US becoming a dictatorship is if you have another crisis like COVID or something. We became a little bit like a dictatorship during the pandemic. A lot of freedoms were stripped. But I don't think it comes down to like Biden or Trump being elected. I think it's like a matter of like whether or not fear overtakes the country enough to the point where people give away their liberties. At that point, then you're in trouble. Let's see. Dr. Boyce, Nvidia's up 82% today. I don't think it's up 82%. You mean $82? I think it's up $82. I don't think it's up 82%. That would be quite a bit. Yeah, I don't think Nvidia is up that much. But it is up a lot. Right now, let me see. Nvidia is up. It's up 9.5%, but it's up $90. So I think that's what you're referring to, but that's still a lot, right? So it's over $1,000 now. Let's see, Chelsea, no question, but shout out to Amani for getting me set up with Prime yesterday. All right, yeah, Amani's on our customer support team. She's amazing. If you email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, you can talk to Amani. We got Chanel. We have a lot of great people that work with the Black Business School and they're all just really good people. And I'm really proud of the university we created because we're better at Black wealth than any institution on the planet. You can't go to Harvard and learn what you learn here. You can't go to an HBCU and learn what we learned here. The principle, our economic Bible is Powernomics because we believe deeply in group economics. We also believe in things like mental health and the structure of the family as being critical keys to building Black wealth for the future. We also believe in the incorporation of radical ideas that come from broad experts in multiple fields coming together to truly form a think tank around issues that affect the Black community. This is not. I don't think you can solve the Black wealth problem by lumping us in with everybody else, and that's what happens at other universities. We're always so concerned about trying to fit us into something else, a square peg in a round hole. I say, no, you need a round peg with a round hole. And so, anyway, we're good at that. And another thing I'm proud of with the Black Business School is that most of the people that you talk to on our team have been here for several years. It's a great place to work, but we work with good people. We don't work with if someone's a bad person or doesn't have the right spirit, that's not a good fit. And so Amani and Chanel and some of the others that work here have been here since literally like 2018, 2019. They know what they're doing. They respect you immensely. They will sit on the phone with you if they have to help you figure it out. And that's something that I'm really proud of. So I'm really honored to have the team that we have. Terry Wilson, where can Prime members find a consolidated list of the stocks you mentioned previously? Just log into drboyceprime.com. There should be stuff there. You have access to something called What Dr. Boyce is Buying. When you go into Prime, you'll see what Dr. Boyce is buying that's in there. If you have trouble finding it, just email support at theblackbusinessschool.com and they can help you. Keep that email address around in case you have any issues. They respond to your email. They have a requirement. They have to respond within 10 or 12 hours, and so they'll get back to you. So it's not instantaneous, but they do get back to you. Okay. Let's see. And if they ever don't get back or something ever goes wrong, you let me know and we'll be right on that. Mary Wilson, Dr. Boyce, do you know any reputable antique art appraisers? No, I do not. I'm so sorry, Mari. I wish I knew. I don't know anybody. Sorry for that. Let's see. Dorothea says, is it good to buy more shares of NVIDIA today, in your opinion? I'm not buying anymore. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'll say I'm not going to buy anymore. I'm skeptical. I really am. I kind of feel like NVIDIA. I feel like when the market starts to drop, which I believe that it's going to do at some point this year, NVIDIA is going to be one of the first casualties. I think that what happens when the market's doing this well is that you have these things, these what they call black swan events or catalysts that are sitting like demons waiting in the corner to come and disrupt the market. So I personally think that a catalyst is going to hit. I think something bad's going to happen that's going to just kind of snap us out of this euphoria that we're in, and you're going to see a little bit of a correction. It's going to broadside and body slam the stock market because right now valuations are really high. They have something called the price earnings ratio that measures the price of the stock divided by the earnings. It tells you how overinflated the price might be, whether the stocks could be underpriced or overpriced. We're in the top 10th percentile of historical price earnings ratios, meaning that stocks are very highly priced relative to what they've been in the past. And usually, when the price earnings ratios get that high, at some point you have a correction. I'm not going to call it a crash. It's going to feel like a crash, though. It may be labeled a crash, but it's really a correction. A correction simply means that they're going to realize, wait, oh, NVIDIA shouldn't be $1,042.92. NVIDIA should only be $822. So instead of being a $2.6 trillion company, it's really supposed to be a $2.2 trillion company. It's still a great company. It's still making money hand over fist. It's just a little bit overvalued. So maybe then that's an opportunity to come in and buy. So don't get scared when that happens. Just know that it happens all the time. So when your granny tells you that the stock market is going to crash, you should just say, yeah, granny, I know. Dr. Boyce said the stock market crashes all the time. And when it does crash, I'm going to show up and I'm going to buy me some more stock. That's what you do. Okay, let's see here. What is the minimum amount you need to do the Prime program? There's no minimum amount, Roxanne. Some people are in there learning to prepare so that once they maybe form their family investment group or get their capital base up, they can make certain moves. And remember, there's more that you can do with options than just sell them. You can do things like call spreads and straddles and strangles and butterflies and condors and lots of other option strategies. So don't think that it's just about the selling options. I mean, the selling of options and generating income was kind of the core of the setup, but we cover everything with options, beginner, advanced, all that stuff. So the URL is drboyceprime.com if you want to take a look. You put up a post that said leverage is how smart men lose their money. What did you mean by that? Oh, that was a quote from Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger who was this old dude who used to hang out with Warren Buffett. He was a real OG. I love Charlie Munger, one of my favorite investors of all time. He and Warren Buffett are old school. They learned investing from this book called by two people named Graham and Dodd, and it was called Value Investing, and it was written in like the 1930s during the Great Depression. So these guys are very conservative, but they're just sturdy, fearless men who have a tremendous amount of success under their belt. And I love the way they talk because they go back to the fact that basic decision making and really simple stuff that's really common sense is the difference between success and failure. So what Charlie Munger said is something that I've actually said a lot. I just said it in my own little black way, but he said the same thing I said. He said that basically smart men ruin themselves and through let me make sure I get it right. Ladies, liquor, and leverage. Ladies, liquor, and leverage. What does that mean? Well, it's similar to something I've always said. When I talk to young black men, I say, look, there's four ways a man ruins his life. Typically, if by engaging in any of these four things too much: sex, drugs, alcohol, gambling. Sex, drugs, alcohol, gambling. So he says ladies, liquor, and leverage. That's similar. Let me explain why. Well, the ladies part, that's basically sex, right? You see men that a lot of times, we want to be rich so that we can attract women. And some men don't have the discernment or the intelligence to understand that just because she want to sleep with you does not mean that you're supposed to do it. So smart men get it, dumb men don't. And then on top of that, things like sex addictions can occur. They can cause you to make decisions that are harmful to your life and the lives of others. They can embarrass you, ruin you, all kinds of stuff, right? So connecting with the wrong women can just ruin a man, destroy him. And make sure you tell your sons this, especially if he's a ladies' man and all that, and he thinks that that's a win for him. There are people that will eat him up, that will literally set him up and destroy him based on that weakness that he may develop over time. The liquor part is basically that when I said drugs and alcohol, that's the liquor part for Charlie Munger. So he says liquor, maybe because he wasn't thinking about drugs. I think about liquor and drugs because those are the two things I've seen that have ruined black families the most. Those are the two things that have had the most devastating impact on my family. My father was a drug addict. My stepfather broke away from his drug addiction. Drugs have been the worst thing to ever happen to the black community. That's why I don't understand why we have any tolerance for rappers who promote drug use. What is wrong with you? You are an idiot. You are worse than a Klansman because you're using the power of persuasion to persuade young people to get hooked on drugs before they ever have a chance to do anything special with their lives. You don't understand what happens inside the brain of a 17-year-old who gets hooked on dope and then he tries to get over it or whatever. No, the brain damage is done, son. Your brain is jacked for life at that point. You've been using Molly and meth. On a plane, I sat next to a guy that he wasn't a Secret Service agent. He was like a federal agent or federal marshal. And he said, I worked with drugs in the DEA and all that. He said, people have no idea how much brain damage gets done to these poor kids when they test out these drugs that are being promoted by these rappers. Like stuff like the Molly and the meth or whatever, like that stuff, like it fries your brain. So then they're like, oh, I used to use it. Now I don't use it no more. Sorry, that those 2 years you were messing with fentanyl, your brain just isn't operating the same. It's like if I spend 2 years, taking a knife and stabbing myself in the thigh, and I do that for 2 years straight, and I cut off my calf muscle, and then I say, "Oh, I'm done cutting off my calf muscles," and I chopped off 3 toes, but now I'm good again. My toes are gonna grow back. No, they're not. They're not gonna grow back. You're gonna go through life with 3 missing toes and no calf muscle. Right? So I just kind of it frustrates me. Let me say that. I'm gonna stop. All right. The next thing is, he said leverage. So the leverage part to me is that kind of correlates to what I said about gambling. And so for him, leverage might mean just bad financial choices or gambling in a different way. A lot of people don't know that a lot of people think that they are investors when really they're just basically gamblers. Investing for some people becomes a more acceptable way for them to fulfill a gambling addiction. I know people that have traded stock options who had to go to Gamblers Anonymous because that same dopamine rush that you get when you buy $50 worth of AMC options and the $50 turns into 500, that same dopamine rush is exactly what you get when you go to the casino. It's the exact same process. So basically, gambling addictions, which are on the rise, by the way, you really want to watch out for this. It's going to ruin a lot of people's families and a lot of people's finances, and cause some people to literally go just jump out of a building and shoot themselves in the head and all this other crazy stuff. Um, Gambling addictions are one of just the worst things that a person can be plagued with. And the thing is that the sports gambling companies are marketing to your son. They're marketing to young men between the ages of about 20 and 35. Women, they're not as quick to get into sports gambling. Older people, we know better half the time, but not all the time. But there's something about being a little bit older, a little wiser, where you have a little more balance. Those young guys full of testosterone and who lack impulse control, oh, that they're easy targets. They get them on there thinking they're gonna make all this money, thinking you're smarter than the system. Next thing you know, you're $3,000, $10,000, $50,000 in debt, and you don't know how you're gonna get out. And then that becomes a really sad life to have. All right, so I'm gonna answer a few more questions, then we're gonna head on out of here. Aisha, do you have a list of the best stocks to sell options on? I'm slowly, yes. If you log into drboyceprime.com, there's something called the Dr. Boyce Moneymakers that is in there. And I update this list every 3 weeks. So you can go to drboyceprime.com and get a copy, or you can email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. They can guide you to where that's located. Let's see. Is 10K enough of a capital base? As Sharon. Yeah, there are some students that have 10K as a capital base for sure. Otis, hey Doc, what are your thoughts on leaving all one's assets in a trust? I think trusts are a great idea. Trusts are great for allowing you to transfer assets after your passing without dealing with probate or taxes in too much of a damaging way. It's not perfect, but it is one way to protect against taxation. So, for example, with my estate, a lot of my insurance policies have my trust as the beneficiary, and then the trust has instructions attached as to what's going to happen with the money, and the trustee's job is to execute the instructions as per what I put in the document. Let's see. Trevor says main steps to becoming a long-term investor. Try to go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. That can get you started. Another framework we set up in terms of a stock market weekend that we did where we covered a lot of that stuff. You can go to thedrboycemethod.com, thedrboycemethod.com. I lay out an 11-step process on how I go about deciding if a stock should be added to my portfolio. So thedrboycemethod.com will get you started. Roxanne, if you are just starting out on your financial journey and you're over 50, where do you recommend I start? Okay, I think I answered that question just now. Okay, 2 more questions. And then we'll bounce on out. I love when you have so many questions. This is great. This is awesome. We gotta do more of these Q&As. Do you recommend starting a 529 plan for my child or investing in an ETF for them? Great question, Chris. I think 529s are better because they have tax advantages. Just sort of make sure you pay attention to any restrictions that there might be on what you can actually do with the money, though, right? And what the consequences would be for violating that restriction. But anything that's tax deferred or has tax benefits tends to be the best option. Shauna, I went through Prime 101 and have a great grasp on what I'm doing. I will be scheduling an appointment with you soon, but before we meet, will a capital base of 76,000 allow me to make at least 10,000 a month? Close, close. Yeah, you can make several $1,000s a month with a capital base of 76,000. And if you are in that category where your capital base is say 40,000 and up, stuff like that, feel free to take a look. I have a mastermind for people that have a little bit more and you want a little bit more personalized attention. So you can email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. There's a couple more spots. You have to apply. You've got to pass the test. We got to make sure you're ready that in terms of understanding investing well enough to be comfortable with the stuff that we're talking about. But if that's of interest to you and you want to take a look and you want to apply, just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. I personally think that the more you have at stake, the more you might want to just really think carefully before you make a move. I did a consultation once with a student who had just bought, he had gotten into a real estate deal for $750,000, and he put his whole life savings into this real estate deal and he couldn't get out. And he said, "Well, what should I do?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I wish I could help you get a time machine so you could go back in time and talk to me before you make this move. Because now that you've locked your money up in this deal, there's only limited things that we can think about here." And I said, "Was this your first real estate deal?" He said, "Yeah." So my thought is, if I'm about to jump into a real estate deal for hundreds of thousands of dollars, then yeah, I'm gonna pay somebody 1,000 or 2,000 if I have to, or whatever, to guide me through the process, right? So if you're looking to make a big financial move, this will be the last point we'll make, and then we'll do another Q&A. My brain's getting a little mushy, so I'm gonna go ahead and let us out of here. But I really am an advocate before you make major financial moves. I'm a big advocate of paying for mentorship, like getting somebody that can help you to just share what they know. Like you can buy their 20 or 30 years of experience instead of learning it the hard way. Because if you don't, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn, but it's going to take you 5, 10 years to learn it. And you're going to pay $100,000 or whatever, to learn these things. So I would encourage you to um, find people that know how to do what you're trying to do and just say, "Hey, I will pay you for your time so that now I can have expectations of you. I can tell you what I need and expect that you're going to deliver for me. And also I get to benefit from all the years of training that you already have." And so there we go. So that's my belief on that's literally what I do. Whenever I go into something new, I'm not going to go dump a bunch of money into something where I don't know what's going on. And Warren Buffett actually talks about this. He says, never invest in something that you don't understand. And if you don't understand it, then maybe find someone that you trust that does understand it so they can tell you what's going on so you don't end up pouring money down the drain. Okay. So anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day. And don't forget, get on the text list. I'll send out that list. I'm actually going to send out the list of weed stocks this afternoon. So if you want to get that list, just make sure you're on the text list. Text morning MORNING to 87948. That's morning to 87948. And also tomorrow we will be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we won't go an hour and 20 minutes tomorrow. We'll probably go more like 30 to 45 minutes as we always do. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
With the athletes when they sign these big, $100 million, $1 billion, $10 billion deals with these TV networks, and I think that's really awesome. I think that's probably the most significant advancement in the compensation of college athletes in a while. This is really big. This is bigger than this is big from a racial standpoint. It's not just big, in terms of from a labor rights standpoint. It's not just big because workers should be paid for their work. It's really big because the NCAA, when you do the math, they take at least $1 billion of Black wealth out of the Black community because whenever someone takes your commodity, whenever they take a resource from you that has value, that's a type of theft. That's something that can leave you in poverty. That's something that where you could have been the beneficiary, but somebody else was. And for the Black community, when you look at what are the things that are Black people known for that actually make us money, some of it are, some of it's stuff that, I don't think we should be all that proud of, just, the buffoonery and the violence and hip hop and all that. But our athletes are also at the top of the list. We produce some of the greatest athletes of all time. We have some of the best athletes of all time in the Black community. If you follow sports, you know that there's never been a white version. Somebody tell me, anybody who knows anything about sports, has there ever been a white version of a Deion Sanders? Anybody, has there ever been a white Deion Sanders? Who's the white Deion? There is no white Deion. Has there ever been a white Bo Jackson? Who's the white Bo Jackson? Somebody tell me. I'll wait all day because I know you ain't got no answer for that. Who's the white Shaquille O'Neal? Shaquille O'Neal, 300 pounds, 7'1", could move like a ballerina with the strength of an ox. There is no white Michael Jordan, right? So there's something special about the Black athlete, and it does link to. I hate saying it, but the everything points to all that slave breeding that they did, in addition to the fact that they work hard and they have skill. None of that's denied. But we created this species of almost superhuman people when they would go to these farms and bring together the strongest men and the strongest women and make babies. I mean, this is the dehumanization we went through that led to the outcomes that we see today. And I don't know why people won't talk about that. I think that people are just scared, like, oh my gosh, we can't talk about slavery. That'll make people, then people will know that it happened. Well, the cat's out of the bag. I think our ancestors have gone through a lot. And one of the outcomes is that we have the best athletes on the planet. One of the purest forms of athletic ability is the men's 100-meter dash final at the Olympics, and the women too. And most of the time, when you see the finals of the 100-meter dash at the Olympics, you usually don't see anybody who's not a Black male. If they're not African American, it's Jamaican, stuff like that, and they tend to dominate. Who's the white Usain Bolt? Has there ever been a white version of Usain Bolt? Will there ever be a white Usain Bolt? Probably not without a whole lot of steroids. Maybe you pump somebody up with enough steroids one day, they might make the drugs good enough to make a guy run that fast. But for the most part, there is no white version of Usain Bolt. So our athletes are a commodity, and I point that out to you so that as a message of economic awareness, it's extremely important for us to just understand how much gets taken from us when they take one of your most precious, most valuable commodities and don't compensate you for that. That's terrible. Why? Well, how in the hell are you going to take something that's that valuable for me and then not pay me for that? And then somehow we don't think that it has an impact on Black wealth. No, that is your Black wealth. That's wealth. Every time a college athlete goes to the next level, goes to the NCAA, and they sign a multi-million-dollar contract, because that's what they're going to start doing. They're going to start signing these multi-million-dollar contracts. That's another millionaire Black family, another millionaire Black family. So the same excitement we might have about somebody running off and starting a business, a hair business or something, and making millions of dollars a year. Well, the same thing is happening when an athlete goes and makes millions of dollars a year. And the reason economic awareness is also very important in those situations is because it's very important that the athletes and those who have access to this level of wealth understand what economic consciousness can do for them, why economic awareness matters. Economic awareness matters because of this. Let's say that I'm a guy who goes to the NCAA and I sign a $20 million contract and I'm making all this money, I'm rolling in bread, I'm just doing really great. Well, if I am a person who does not have a lot of economic consciousness, that means that in my mind, I can't see the future. I'm only looking at the present, because consciousness and awareness means I can see not just what I'm doing now, but how what I do now is going to play out for the rest of my life and the rest of the lives of all the people that are going to come behind me. If maximal economic awareness over time means that I can see 100 years from now how this $20 million contract I got can change the lives of my great grandkids. Do you understand? Give me a yes if you're following. I'd like some confirmation, if you don't mind, to let me know that when I'm not getting too weird here. Okay, minimal economic consciousness means that I've collapsed my vision in space and time. I can only see what's right in front of me right now. And then also, economic awareness doesn't just have a time dimension. If you go to the fourth dimension, the way we live in 3 dimensions, length, width, and height, the fourth dimension is time. So economic awareness doesn't just spread in time, it also has a space dimension. So my vision in time and space, if I'm economically conscious, pretty much means that not only do I see how my actions affect me, a minimal collapsed version of economic consciousness, a condensed, tiny, low level vibration of economic consciousness means all I see is how my choices affect me. It's me, 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 me. I went to the strip club. I bought me a car. I'm going to get me this and I'm going to get me that, right? A broad economic consciousness means I understand how this win isn't just a win for me, it's a win for everybody connected to me. Do you understand? It is an awareness of something that Professor Andrew Caroli, who signed off on my dissertation, God bless him, he's a professor at Cornell now, I believe. It's what he called financial contagion. Financial contagion. Now, let me explain how financial contagion works. You understand this already. I'm just going to explain it to you in economic terms. Give me a yes if you understand what it means for a disease to be contagious. Give me a yes in the chat. Let's talk about contagion. Okay, so we know what it means for something to be contagious. We lived all through the pandemic, and we saw what contagion can do, right? If you don't get the shot, then that means you're killing everybody around you. Whatever the whole interesting narrative was, I'm not judging it. It's just it's very strange. So we know what contagion means. Well, financial contagion operates the same way. Financial contagion means that you understand how your decisions, your moves aren't just going to affect you. That your come up, when you have a come up, that come up ain't just for you. God didn't give that blessing just to you. If you're financially aware, God, you understand that when God blessed you with that $20 million deal, he wasn't blessing you, he was blessing everybody. He was blessing your whole family. He was blessing the whole hood. He was blessing every person that you're connected to. So financial consciousness, which is basically sight, vision, that's one dimension of it, is just an awareness through time and space to say, not only am I going to be doing really well from this right now, I'm going to go get me the sports car. I'm going to go get me the mansion. I'm going to go get me, the luxury items that I want. It's okay to get those things, but on top of that, I'm going to have enough insight to develop infrastructure and stretch things out in a way where everybody benefits. Everybody's going to win. So what's an example of that? Well, it helps. Like if your family followed the Black Wealth Master Plan, and you grew up as a young Black boy or girl, where you learned how to start a business by the age of 12, and then you understand things like delegation, and you understand how to develop infrastructure and some sort of organizational layout that allows you to go hire as many people as you want. And you're not, now pay attention now, you're not doing what a lot of athletes do. A lot of athletes go broke trying to help the whole hood. Because why? Well, because they approach things from a charitable standpoint. They look at helping other people as charity. They look at it as, I'm going to take some of the money out of my pocket and just hand it to you. Dominique Wilkins used to go into the store, and he would, because he was such a good guy, he would buy a $2 pack of gum and give him a $100 bill and just walk out. Allen Iverson used to go to a city, buy a whole wardrobe, and then leave all the clothes in that city and then buy a whole new wardrobe in the new city. Antoine Walker went broke, I believe, partly because he spent so much money with so many different people, and he was helping out so many people that eventually it weighed him down financially. I don't think there's anything wrong with being generous. I really don't. If you're a generous person, and you're helping other people, God bless you. How many of you are helping others? How many of you have people that are depending on you? How many of you have people that you're coming through for? Say something in the chat, because I honor you. I really do. I really honor you. I think that is what you're supposed to do. I mean, some people don't do it. Some people think you're a sucker if you do it. I don't agree. I'm not one of those people. I like helping other people, and I don't always need something in return. I don't always say, well, what is I gonna get from it? If I don't get nothing from it, I'm not gonna do it. Well, what that attitude unfortunately reflects is it might be a trauma response, right? Because you've been screwed before, and you're like, well, if I don't take care of me first, then nobody else will. And I get that, but it's okay to be nice to other people. Like even when I got married and my wife had 3 kids, people were like, well, why would you want to take care of 3 kids and they ain't your kids? I was like, well, because I like kids and I like mentoring kids and I like my wife and her kids are cool and this is fun. It's not a burden for me. It's not hard for me. So I don't understand why every calculation has to be, what is I gonna get? What's in it for me? If you understand concepts that we talk about in economic awareness training, like reciprocity, you understand that karma is real. You understand that what you put out in the universe is what circles back to you. If you understand the concepts that we discuss here, if you have an economic awareness, you understand that most powerful economic situations are built on some sort of an ecosystem. like air circulating in a room. If you put bad air in the room, then you're going to have bad air in the room. It's going to circulate. If I'm putting bad energy out to the world, then the world's going to give me bad energy back. If I'm putting nothing into the world, then the world will give me nothing back. So a lot of people either put bad energy into the world and then they're surprised when bad energy comes back because they don't know karma, they don't understand ecosystems, or they put no energy into the world. They say, I'm not taking care of nobody but me, and that's it. And then next thing you know, they don't understand why they're lonely. They don't understand why nobody wants to be around them, why nobody wants to date them, nobody visits them in the nursing home. My wife works in hospice care, by the way, which is we're going to talk about heightening your awareness. She comes back and tells me stories about hospice care, and she literally told me a real financial story just yesterday about a poor guy who had a son, and he got mad because his son was going to put him in a nursing home, and so he left all his money to his girlfriend's daughter, and the girlfriend's daughter doesn't care about him, and the son comes to visit him every day in the nursing home, but he doesn't have access to the money. The girlfriend's daughter has the money, and she doesn't really like the guy, so she doesn't come see him, and he didn't invest in anybody else in his life, so he's sitting in the hospice, and he doesn't have anybody coming to see him. And it's crazy because he worked hard his whole life and he built up some assets, but he kind of made some moves that weren't really thoughtful from a consciousness standpoint about what the long-term implications of his decisions were going to be. So here's my point. I really encourage you to embrace the idea of economic awareness as one of the most critical things a person can have. So so circling back to the issue of athletes, I'm glad the NCAA is paying these guys. I see this as a massive opportunity to either improve their lives or to make their lives worse. As you know, it's very dangerous handing a 20-year-old, $5-10 million. It's very dangerous, especially if they are brainwashed by unfortunate, unhealthy economic culture. If they are brainwashed by mostly hip hop culture, which trains you to throw your money away and to make very, very bad decisions that ruin your life. I worry about those guys because they're going to cause a lot of destruction and chaos with that money. But at the same time, if you give that kind of money to someone that has strong economic vision, they then say, wow, this is a great opportunity for all of us to have a come up. When Antoine Walker blew, he blew through because he embraced a very bad toxic culture. He blew through $100 million. Well, see, you got to understand, everybody else in the media was saying, oh my God, how do you waste $100 million? I wasn't thinking that way because, again, my economic awareness is pretty strong. I was like, no, he didn't blow $100 million. This man blew $1 billion. Because what I see is I don't see $100 million. I see what $100 million would have become if he'd invested that money consistently. And by the time he died, this man could have easily been worth over $1 billion. So, and then over, say, a 50-year period, if that money is nurtured and protected and grown properly, you're talking about an empire of $50 to $100 billion that would have become by the time his granddaughter got a hold of that money. But instead, his granddaughter grows up, is going to be born, going to work every day for a white man, living in the projects, in the struggle. Maybe it's struggling as a single mom or something because granddaddy dropped the ball. Granddaddy did not play the game of economic basketball properly. Granddaddy thought that as long as he can dunk a basketball, that the white man was going to take good care of him. He's going to be okay. Granddaddy thought that all he had to understand was how to win games, and he didn't prepare for the ultimate game. The ultimate game is not on the basketball court. The ultimate game is the game of life. The reality is that when you go into the world, and I knew Antoine in college, and I didn't know him that well. I knew people that knew him, and I saw him around. I knew some of the other players very well. We had a great basketball team at the University of Kentucky. When I talk about great, I mean great. With the 3 years I was working on my 2 master's degrees, they won the NCAA championship twice, and they lost it once. They went to the championship all 3 years. That's how amazing that time was. And Antoine was one of the leaders. He was the boss. He was the king. He was the guy. And I remember being so concerned, even when I was in my little 25-year-old brain, I was worried. I said, what's going to happen to a man that gets hundreds of millions of dollars where his education is just not where it needs to be, where his awareness may not be where it needs to be? And I remember thinking that. And lo and behold, years later, I see the headline of how much money he lost. And I hear the stories. Oh, I was gambling all night with Michael Jordan, and we would spend $2 million, at the casino, and all I see is culture. I see economic culture. Economic culture is heavy. Economic culture is very important. If you have an economic culture that tells you to go and blow your money at the casino, then that's what you're going to do. If economic culture tells you you're supposed to run to a club and put $1,000, $20,000, $50,000 in a stripper thong, then that's what you're going to do. And what you'll notice, and which is very unfortunate, is that when you really study the economic culture of many Black males in America, it comes right out of what they see on TV. And this also is connected to the fatherlessness issue as well, right? You don't have that stern, strong father to say, "Boy, what are you doing? This is stupid. Don't you dare waste that money." You have TV, and you're watching TV, and you're seeing rappers doing certain things. And if you connect the behavior of some of the young, wealthy athletes to the behavior of hip hop artists that's being promoted through these videos that are financed by people who are not Black, where they want to finance the buffoonery, then you can see a direct connection in terms of economic culture. Because remember, the economic culture doesn't have to just be, bottles of Ciroc and stripper thongs. The economic culture can also be networking and building business. The economic culture does not have to be outrageous and loud and ridiculous in order to get attention and attention-seeking behavior. Economic culture could also be quietly grinding away to build the next Facebook with you and your buddies buying a house together where you all get together and you're programming computers all night so you can become the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next Elon Musk, right? Economic culture doesn't have to be what you see in a music video. Economic culture, there's so many different versions. Economic culture can be Warren Buffett style, where you are so conservative that you don't even move, that you live in a regular house and drive a regular car and quietly accumulate through conservative investing strategy $168 billion in cash, to the point where you could buy the whole NBA if you wanted to. You could buy 20 NFL teams if you wanted to. And Warren Buffett can go in and buy every single player in the NBA if he wanted to, but he doesn't do it because he says, well, what's the point? I want to hold on to my money. I believe deeply in this simple idea that's very important in finance that I want you all to understand, which is simply capital preservation. Capital preservation. There's a rule when it comes to money that most people do not know, but this is a fundamental rule in the world of finance. In fact, when we were going through in grad school and when I wrote research papers at Syracuse, we had some basic tenets of finance that we would talk about on a regular basis, where everybody knew it, everybody understood it. It was a fundamental part of being able to operate in a capitalist society in an efficient way. And it went like this. It was very simple. It said, capital must be preserved and capital must put to its best available use. That simple idea that you must preserve, protect your capital, protect your wealth, protect your money. Capital isn't just money. Remember that most capital is not money. Most capital is not money. Most capital is not money. You have lots of other types of capital. You have human capital, your skill set, you have networking capital. You have, if you have free time, time is a form of capital. That's why when we do stock options class, I show you all how we can actually sell time. I sent you all a video where I said, here's how you can loan yourself $20,000 by selling time. And I showed you, right? So that's the first part. Capital must be preserved, and then capital must be put to its best available use. It must be efficiently used. So what does that mean? That's why companies engage in mergers and acquisitions. That's why companies get bought. The reason companies get purchased on the open market or whatever is because there's somebody who looks at the capital you have. So let's say that you're running Paramount Pictures, which is a horribly inefficiently run company right now. They're just a complete mess, a hot mess. Well, somebody else says, dang, they got all those studios. They have all those intellectual property rights for all these great films that they've made through the years. They have magazines and newspapers, and they own BET, and they have all these entities that they own, and all this capital that they have. I could do great things with that capital. If we take their capital and blend it with our capital, we can get more out of it. We can make more money from what they have than they can. They made 7 billion. We can make 10 billion. So what companies will do is they'll show up and they'll say, here, we'll pay you a premium to have access to your capital because we have a more efficient use of that capital than you do. And that's how value gets created. And theoretically, you're supposed to come in and say, okay, sure, we'll take the money and here's the capital. And then it gets put to a more efficient use. So the question to ask yourself today from an economic consciousness standpoint, and I don't want to overwhelm you. I know I introduced you to a couple of new concepts today, and I don't want this to be a stressful discussion. It's going to take time to absorb these ideas. Is I want you to ask yourself a very simple idea, simple question. Black people have a tremendous amount of capital. I explained that we have cultural capital, we have intellectual capital, we have human capital, we have networking capital, we have all different kinds of capital. And then we have our athletes, we have our entertainers, we have some of the most talented people on the planet. We have labor. Labor is a form of capital. We have free time. Free time is a form of capital. You have trillions of dollars in capital in the Black community, and I'm not even talking about any of the money in your pocket. That 1.6 trillion that they talk about, y'all seen those studies? Anybody seen those where they talk about Black people spend 1.6 trillion dollars a year? That 1.6 trillion in financial capital is absolutely dwarfed by the 60-70 trillion dollars in capital that you have in other areas. And this is why I explained to you all in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, that you were born a millionaire. You just may not have had any money. If you had family, you were a millionaire. You just may not have had the economic vision to be able to put that capital to its best available use to extract the wealth from that family. But anybody who's ever seen a family when they're on their job, anybody ever seen a family that starts that killer family business where they're all on code and they're all working together, they're all grinding, they're all hustling on behalf of the family? What happens with a family like that? Do they end up broke? Do they end up, on welfare, in poverty? Do they all end up in jail where they got the strong father, the strong mother sitting all 7 kids down and getting them on code? Does this family end up in the streets? They end up getting beat up by the world? What happens to a family like that? They get rich. They become very successful. But they don't just get rich financially. They get rich in so many other ways. They have nothing. They don't just get money. They get all the things that money cannot buy. Money is not a be all end all. Money is not a destination. Money is a tool. Money is a gateway. Money it knocks down barriers to give you access to the real wins in life. The real wins in life are things like freedom. Black people talk all day about freedom. I'm telling you the truth. I think most of us don't even know what freedom looks like. Freedom does not involve you serving a white man and tickling his testicles every morning so you can go pay your rent. That is not freedom. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. I don't want to bust nobody's bubbles, but that don't look like freedom to me. So we don't even. Not only do we not have freedom, we don't even know what freedom looks like. We don't. I'm just going to tell you the truth. So when you see capital put to its best available use, you see amazing things happen. When all that means is maximizing your potential. Or in financial terms, another way you might say it, and which might be connect to our stock options training, is all economic efficiency kind of means is maybe exercising your options. Look at how much I want you to understand. So let me go back to my question. Okay, I want to make sure I ask this question. Y'all know how I get. I get on a stream of consciousness and I go on a tangent and I forget to go back to what I was saying. In the Black community, with all the capital that we have, all the human capital, all the talent, all the creativity, all of the free time, all of the labor, all of the assets, intellectual and otherwise human capital, all that, do you think, yes or no, answer me in the chat, do you think that Black people are following one of the most fundamental principles of economics by putting their capital to its best available use? Yes or no? Are we optimizing? Are we maximizing? When hip hop comes along and God says, okay, you are the chosen people. I'm going to bless you with one of the most extraordinary, most impactful, most influential art forms in the history of this earth called hip hop, with DJ Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash and all them going through the Bronx. I'm going to bless you with that right now. So I've just given you $10 trillion worth of capital over multiple generations. Was that capital put to its best available use? Did we maximize? Or did we fumble the ball? Did we lose the basketball game of economics? Did we take the ball and throw it out of bounds? Because I'm trying to figure out how the hell did hip hop start with us, but then next thing you know, some guy named Abraham Iskowitz is the biggest mogul in all of hip hop. I just made that name up, but y'all know where I'm going with this. I'm not going to talk about it. Right? Well, how about looking at these other guys, these melanin deficient people who don't even like you, literally sitting next to your favorite rappers, telling them what to rap about? How did that happen? What happened? Who fumbled the ball? Who can't dribble up in this mug? Right? And the reason that the ball gets fumbled, partly there's various reasons, but one big reason is due to a lack of economic awareness, a lack of financial consciousness. Now there are some exceptions. I would really say, even though he's controversial, Russell Simmons, who I would almost say he's my friend, but I told you I'm not really friends with celebrities because I never know. They're so busy, you don't know if you have a real friendship. But I know Russell's called me a bunch of times, and he seems like in the interactions he seems like a decent man. And when we worked together on a project in 2013, he stuck to his guns, he followed through. I have a lot of respect for that. Russell Simmons, if you go back, you remember that during that time in the early stages of hip hop, he wasn't out here trying to be a rapper or a DJ. He was trying to be a businessman. He saw the economic potential of hip hop, and he had a certain level of economic awareness. And it didn't come from being able to go into the studio and bust a rap. It came from understanding business and distribution and monetization and profit models, and that's where Russell fit himself into the game, right? So long story short, economic awareness I think would have made a massive difference when it came to the growth of hip hop, because then you would have been thinking about things like, well, who owns this intellectual property? And if this thing gets distributed, who gets the rights to all these things? When we're in stock options class and we talk about selling rights, some of you have made over $100,000 just selling the rights to your stock. Well, that requires a certain level of awareness and training where I say, well, this is what it means to sell the rights to something. You're not selling the asset, you're selling the rights to it. The rights are just kind of the potential, right? It's like if a lady is, if you have a daughter, the reality is that you don't just have one person. You have the daughter, plus you have all the children that this young lady can produce. So there's sort of this unseen aspect of it that you have to have awareness in order to see. So when I see a little kid, like one time, this true story. One time there was a young lady I mentored, and I guess we were close, and she trusted me, and she was thinking about terminating her pregnancy, and she put this crazy burden on me. She said, "Oh, I got one more day to terminate. What do you think I should do?" And I said, "Gosh, I don't think that's my decision to make." She said, "Well, if you tell me to do it, I'm going to do it." And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, because again, just like I don't give you all investing advice, I don't tell anybody how to live their life." I said, "But honestly, if you want my perspective, I don't just see a baby in your stomach. I see a person. I see a person who's going to grow up and have a life and have kids and then have grandkids, and I picture that baby 80 years from now with a big Thanksgiving dinner with 20 grandkids at the dinner together. So you're dealing with a person who's a little bit different. I don't just see a little burden in your stomach. I see something that's going to be much bigger than that. So I'm going to just say, if it was me, I don't think I would do it, but please don't put that on me." So anyway, so the child got to live, or she let the baby live because of that. And now the baby's growing up. The baby's like a person and in school and everything else. And I see this baby and I see this life this person's living. And it's unbelievable to me that just that one conversation opened the gateway to all these possibilities, right? And I think that that's one thing that you have to have awareness. You have to meditate on that. You got to understand that when we're talking in class and we're talking about shifting the financial trajectory of your family across multiple generations, you got to be able to see those little butterfly effects. Does anybody know the term butterfly effect? Give me a yes if you heard butterfly effect. Butterfly effect, in case you don't, let me know if y'all know what that butterfly effect is like, where they show you that little changes can change everything. Little pivots, just little tiny things that you don't even think matter in the moment. That if you're not conscious, you're not even thinking about this little thing like, oh, should I sleep with her or not sleep with her? Do I take the job or not take the job? All these little tiny decisions that you make open up a whole universe of possibility in terms of other realities that would not exist. It's like going through a wormhole. If you know wormholes, it's like a whole other universe. You're going through this whole universe of possibilities because you make these tiny little pivots. So what I would encourage you to consider is that when we talk about shifting, when we talk about really shifting our economic reality, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we care about, and not just for people that are living, but also people who are not yet born, I encourage you to understand that you have such a massive opportunity right now. You have such an amazing set of possibilities that exist for you right now, because you are alive on May 24th, 2024, and May 24th, 2024 is never going to exist ever again. You have this set of possibilities in front of you that your kids and grandkids will never have, because they're not going to live May 24th, 2024, or be able to make adult decisions at that time. So whatever little decisions you make, the little pivot you make, like if you say, okay, you know what, let's go ahead and set up that auto deposit, that auto invest in the stock market. Or let's go ahead and start doing those family business meetings where we can start just talking about our economics. Or well, let me go ahead and just take that little class, or well, let me go ahead and just have that conversation with so and so. Yeah, these little things, these little choices that you make are going to have a massive butterfly effect in terms of opening up options and possibilities and rights and outcomes that you can't even really even see right now. So make those little pivots. In fact, that's really the foundation of a lot of my teaching. My thinking a lot of times is like, what are some little things we can do that would just like have a massive impact, like something that you barely notice it, but it's like huge because once you accumulate those tiny actions over time, it becomes something amazing. So economic awareness is something where, in my view, just circling back to what we were talking about earlier with the athletes and the money and all that stuff, economic awareness is the difference between somebody getting a $5 million bag and just spending $5 million as a consumer versus somebody getting a $5 million bag and turning that into $1 billion empire. And the economic awareness is something where the earlier that you get it, the better off you are. That's why I tell you to bring your kids to class. Let them just sit and listen to me. I believe deeply in conversational teaching because that's how my father taught me. You don't always have to sit down and take notes and take a class and memorize stuff. That's fine. But the thing is, I don't want you to memorize stuff. I want you to internalize stuff. I don't just want you to remember concepts. I want you to experience them and to feel them. I want them to be a part of who you are, a part of your culture, a part of your DNA. I don't want you to remember things. I want you to understand things. And understanding sometimes might require a conversation as opposed to somebody just having you just learn a bunch of stuff. Do you understand how many years I was learning very high level finance, but I never internalized it because I just had to learn it for a test? And it wasn't until I got into little weird things like meditation and all that, and just reflection and true awareness that I began to dig back deep into all these things I learned and started really internalizing them and saying like, okay, what does it mean to act that out? What does it mean to live that way? What cultures actually operate in this capacity? I was on a plane. I was on I was on the little crowded little bus to go get the rental car, and there's a guy that came from New York, and it looked like he was from the Jewish community. He has a little hat in his beard and everything. And I'm saying, I see guys like that. I'm always like, I wonder how rich the people are in your neighborhood. Like I wonder how you all view economics. And so I think about that because I started to realize over time, I probably didn't figure this out till I was like mid to late 40s, how deeply embedded culture is in how you do things economically. I could teach you stuff all day long that'll make your head explode. But if you don't internalize it into your psyche, your subconscious, and into your culture, if you're not acting it out, if you're not following through with action, then what you learned isn't going to matter. So I know a lot of you all, because maybe you're working to get to that point, you'll come and you'll just listen and listen and listen, and you'll beat yourself up a little bit because you haven't taken action yet. And I just want to encourage you to really think about that. I want you to really be conscious and really, evaluate yourself and say, okay, I need to take some action and just take a little bit of action, just a little bit, just something little to kind of open that gateway, open that wormhole a little bit, and, add to that little butterfly effect that will open that door to all these other possibilities that should exist for you. But I don't know if they're going to exist for you if you just simply have the knowledge. I think you have to have the application and you have to have the internalization. So I don't want you to just know things or just memorize things. I want you to understand things. I want you to feel it. I want you to connect to it, right? So that might require you just sitting on it and just thinking about it. And I'll say this last point, and this is true. This is from a conversation we had last night. I was talking to our middle child. Our middle child is a bona fide genius. I bet if she took an IQ test, she would be in the top 5%. She's always been like that. Even when she was a 2-year-old baby, she could talk like a 5-year-old. She's really smart and very observant about things. And she was talking about her physics test. She got 100 on her physics test. She gets 100 on everything. And she was talking about how she answered the questions in the test. And she said, well, what I did was I looked through all the questions because sometimes you'll see the answer to a previous question in a later question. So I read through all the questions and then went back to the beginning and then blah, 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 right? And I said, you don't understand the gravity of what you said. I said, in mathematics, there's actually a concept called backward optimization where you literally start at the end and you work your way back. And or was it called backward optimization? Well, there was another term for it. Gosh, why is the term out of my head right now? But let's call it backward optimization, where they said the best way to solve a problem is to start at the end and work your way backward. I said, so what you did was was when you did something that showed tremendous amount of awareness because you looked at the whole picture. You looked way down the road. You didn't just look at what was in front of you. The next question, you looked all the way at the end and then worked your way backward, and you were able to compile all that information. And I said, keep doing that. I said, keep thinking about things, in order to understand them. I said, when I was in, and I didn't learn this until I studied math, we would get a math problem on Monday, and they would tell us that we had to have the answer by the following Monday. And it was the most terrifying experience in the world because nobody knew how to answer that question. Nobody understood what was going on. But what would happen is through the week, because you had to do it, you would think about it, obsess about it, talk to people about it, read books about it, look at the problem from 50 different angles. And then eventually by Monday, you would have the answer somehow, right? Maybe, and a lot of it had to do with like the subconscious. You would go to sleep thinking about it. And even while you're sleeping, you're solving the problem in your head. So that led to me sort of looking at things in a different way. I said, okay, my goal is not just to memorize things. I want to understand things. And the way you understand things is you think about things. So really what I was saying, what I told her was I said, a lot of people can't solve problems because they freak out. They spend too much time emotionally reacting to the difficulty of the problem. Backward induction, thank you. I said backward optimization, it's backward induction. So a lot of people can't solve problems because they spend so much time getting scared. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. Let's make it simple. How many of you have seen people, or maybe it's you, it's okay, who have just a fear of math? You can literally ask them, well, what is 2 + 2? And they'll go, I don't know, right? Because math, the fear of math has just been so embedded in them. You give them any math problem, even one they can easily solve, they can't do it because they're so busy being scared that they don't spend any of that energy actually thinking and processing information, right? And I said, I saw this a lot when I was teaching math at the University of Kentucky. And I said, a lot of people don't understand that if you just calm your ass down and breathe for a minute and don't freak out, you'll get the answer eventually. And I said, so one of the philosophies I have in life is when I get a problem, when somebody asks me a question I don't know the answer to, or gives me a problem that's hard, the first thing I do is I say, let me think about that. That's it. And I don't have no clue what the answer is. And I'll just sit there and I'll just meditate on it and sit on the porch and think about it and spend it might take me 2 weeks. But eventually I know I'm going to have some insights that I did not have if I try to answer in the moment. So the same thing is true with any kind of problem. And the reason I brought that up to her, we started with mathematics, but I was saying life, really, a lot of life is just about problem solving. That's it. Literally going through life, that's what you do as a parent and all that. You're always problem solving. How do we get the bathroom painted by Tuesday? And how do we get the toilet fixed? Or our kids, how do we make this crazy 14-year-old stop acting ridiculous? Or whatever, without hurting his feelings. So just whatever. You're always problem solving. And I think that is something that should be taught to kids. I think that knowing how to just calm down, think about a problem, analyze it, break it down, kind of just process things, and don't be scared to think. Don't be scared to think. That's the danger, in my view, of an anti-intellectual culture. I really believe that there is a consistent effort through various forms of propaganda to reduce the consciousness of the American people and to really reduce the consciousness of Black people. I think that there's kind of this effort for you to come up with these simple-minded responses to everything, and to really look down on people that like to just think about stuff. The anti-intellectualism, like I'm going to just get mad at you because you are a thinker or because you are a person that wants to read and learn and understand things. Once I had this former NBA player on YouTube that for some reason he hated my guts, and I didn't understand why. I was like, I don't even know this man. Why is this man? And he had a lot of followers, and he really talked about me a lot. And I was like, why is this guy so mad at me? And somebody said, well, maybe he just had a bad relationship with his teachers in school, and he sees you as a professor as just a nerdy guy that reminds him of the teachers that he hated in high school and in college. And I just thought, wow, that's so interesting. So you're mad at me because I'm just because of who I am and what I do. I don't think there's anything wrong with being smart, because I think we should all be smart. Because dumb people I would say dumb people that don't want to think, they get absolutely obliterated in this economy. The whole economic system is built on keeping your consciousness low so you won't know what they're doing to you. So you're not aware of how they're extracting your wealth. You're not aware of how they're putting you into slavery. You're not aware here you go. Here's one example. I'll give you a real life example that relates to economics so we can bring this back home. I was looking at this. There's this morning podcast I listen to called Morning Brew that I really like, and it's a couple white boys who just talk about economics, or whatever. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they put up this post where they were basically saying that 3 in 5 Americans believe we're in a recession, and that's not true. They said it's crazy that 3 in 5 Americans think we're in a recession, and all these TikTok videos are out there about how bad the economy is. And that's just not true, because the data says everything's great, and they blame Joe Biden because they think the economy is bad. But really, if you look at this data, GDP has gone up, and unemployment is really low, and things like that. And what I thought was really interesting about that is I put a little response in there, and I kind of said, actually, what I think is happening is that the reason that you have this disconnect is because you have two economies. You have one economy for people that own assets. They own real estate, they own stock, maybe they own businesses. They're doing great. They're doing excellent. All these things are just at all-time highs. And then you have the economy for people who don't have any of these things. They don't have real estate, they don't have a business, they don't own any stock. They are the workers, they are the consumers, and they are the renters. So if I'm a worker, here's what I'm seeing as a worker. Inflation is going up, but my wages are not going up. So that's a lose for me, right? If I got a 1% raise in a year that has 7% inflation, that's really bad for me. They're consumers. Well, as a consumer, when they go to the grocery store, the price of everything's going up. So they're trying to buy lettuce and pickles or whatever and mustard at the grocery store, and the price of everything keeps going up. That's another loss. And then if they are renters, then with companies like BlackRock buying up 30% of the single family homes in Atlanta, your rent is going up too. So your income is staying flat, but your expenses are going up. So yeah, you've got a pretty crappy economy. So where's that excess going to? It's going into debt. The only way you can maintain your standard of living is when you max out the credit cards and everything else. And that's why credit card debt's at an all-time high, student loan debt's at an all-time high. Most forms of debt, car loan debt is at an all-time high, because people have to go into debt if you don't have if you don't have enough income to cover your expenses. If you want to know about BlackRock, Crystal, BlackRock is just this big company that controls about $9 trillion in assets, and they kind of have more power than most governments. They're kind of everywhere. So that's BlackRock. And the difference with America versus other countries is that America will allow BlackRock to go in and buy single family homes. In Denmark and other countries, they told BlackRock, you can't do that. We're making laws to stop you from buying all the houses, because when they buy all the houses, it pushes up the value of real estate, it pushes up the cost of rent. So effectively, that's what BlackRock does. So long story short, you just have two separate economies, and you have one economy that's full of people that have a little bit more power and a little bit more economic consciousness. And I would say that the second economy, maybe a little bit of economic awareness can be helpful, or at the very least, if you have a parent that's economically aware, then what they're going to do is they're going to make sure you have assets so you can be on the good side of the economy. So you really have two sides of the economic system. And we've talked about that before, but I want you to sort of keep that in mind. That's how two different people can look at the same thing and have two different responses, because they're living two different realities. And a lot of us don't know that yet, but now you know. If you don't know, now you know. All right. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish up for today. One thing I want to remind everybody of is, if you don't know, in Money in the Morning, if you want to be a premium member, there is a way to become a premium member. I'm going to send out a link today that will give you 90% off lifetime access. I think lifetime access is like $700 or something, but you can get it for like $79, and it'll give you access to all of the archived trainings that we've done here. We've done well over 150, I want to say about 150 of these Money in the Morning economic awareness trainings. If you really want to, I believe, here's my humble suggestion, if you have kids and you really want them to kind of get this stuff, let me talk to them. Just take the video, give them money, like give them like $5 for every video they watch, or something, whatever you got to do, right? Just bribe them if you have to, because it's going to be good for them. If they sit and they listen to me talk about this stuff for a while, they're just going to, if you're swimming in the economics, you're going to understand it. A fish will always be a better swimmer than a giraffe trying to learn how to swim. And so if you're in the economics, then you're going to be the economics. You're going to be the money. You know, if you see the money, you're going to be the money. So awareness is sight. I want them to have sight. I want them to see it. I want them to be it. I want them to live it to the point where they're not having to consciously decide, yeah, I'm going to learn a little bit about money. No, most millionaires spend 20 hours a month studying money and understanding money. So I want your kids to be on that millionaire track. So feel free to bring your kids, bring your whoever, share it with whoever you want. So anyway, I'm going to send that link out later on today. If you want that link, just make sure you get on the text list. Text the word morning to 87948. If you text morning to the number 87948, I'll send you a link and you can join for 90% off. You can do a monthly access, but really, if you do it all at once, it's easier. It'll be $79 one time. But there is a monthly access link if that's something that's more comfortable for you. But all this stuff, every single training we've done, and we do these every single morning, 7 days a week, is put in that archive. And then also premium members get exclusive access to other things we have going on in the Black Business School. So there's a lot of benefits there. And also, if you want to get a copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, or our financial flashcards for children, things like that, you can go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. We have a lot of great stuff there in our Black Wealth Mastery store. And we're very proud because we know we're good at what we do. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great day. I will see you all, I guess, tomorrow, and bless you. Love you.